Welcome, Building Better Beginnings Coalition. I am so excited to know that this coalition has formed to focus on one of the issues that I believe is the most important for the state of Maryland to address in the years ahead. This is something that has become personally a true mission for me when I first came into the Senate and throughout, and now having the honor of serving as the presiding officer of the Maryland Senate. Figuring out how we can create better early childhood education opportunities for all of our state's young people is an absolutely essential priority. It started when I was in the classroom. I was a teacher in Baltimore City, and I taught high school, 9th, 10th, and 11th graders, U.S. history and U.S. government, and heard the stories of a number of my students and their siblings and the experiences that they had had, and the inequitable opportunities that were made available to them. It was something that hit me very, very personally. Something as having come from a great deal of privilege, where I feel very fortunate to the opportunities that I had. It wasn't until I was in the classroom that I really began to understand the differentiated opportunities that we have here in this great state, but that exist right now today. It's from that experience in the classroom and seeing those inequitable opportunities that drove me to run for office in 2010. I fundamentally believe that if we truly are going to create a thriving economy here in the state of Maryland, we have got to focus on investing in young people's education to ensure that their long-term opportunities meet their fullest potential. That starts at the earliest ages. And what we've seen from brain science, from economic data, when we get it right early, the long-term outcomes are so much better. You either pay it now or you pay it later. And I just fundamentally believe that if we can put the resources at the early end of the spectrum, that is where we will start to see a much more equitable and thriving state of Maryland. But this work is really hard. It's really tough, and it's not something that one bill or one law will ever accomplish. Let's go back in time a little bit. My early childhood education legislative experience started back in 2013. In fact, it was even a little bit before that when we were talking about gambling. When we were trying to think about how we were going to use the funds for for the table games expansion. I fought on the Senate floor to say that all of our casino money that comes in, that in order to make sure that it was additive, that we should make sure that the Education Trust Fund funded expanded early childhood education. We finally were able to add that to the bill. In 2013, we came back with the Race to the Tots legislation. This was a competition to try and get local jurisdictions to put money into expansion opportunities so that we could get more high-quality seats available to the young people that needed them the most. In 2014, we came back with the Pre-K expansion grant. This was to work with our federal partners, in which Maryland was very successful then under the Obama administration, to use dollars flexibly to make sure that our highest need young people, those 3s and 4s, and even earlier, had the opportunity to be able to access a high quality early childhood education experience. Move forward a few more years, and as we started to get our early learning councils really moving and the recommendations were coming, we found additional ways to make sure that the sector was prepared. We passed a bill in 2016 to focus on the professional development of our educators in the early childhood education space, because we know there's a huge workforce demand. Fast forward to this year, where we passed the Blueprint for Maryland's Future. The work that we're doing around early childhood education quality expansion was built on this idea that if we get to young people earlier, we'll have a better long-term result. We've also looked at the way that healthcare intersects with early childhood education. And so I worked with the Maryland Family Network and a number of the partners who are a part of this amazing coalition to create the Thrive by 3 Fund so that we could focus on mothers and families and ensure that there is the access to the healthcare services that we know start lives in the most effective and productive ways. Finally, we know that it's not just about access to classroom space or to education. It's also about the policies for our workforce. In 2018, I was able to work with this coalition, or a number of individuals in the coalition, to pass paid family leave for state employees. This was a big deal. We said that it is absolutely essential that caring parents that work for the state would have the ability to be home with their children for those first few months that you never ever get back. It was a bill that I will say is one of my proudest moments, and that I still today probably get the best constituent messages from state employees who found out that I was a part of this effort and just write thank you for having that special time with their infants at those early brain developing stages. And it's just something I'm so proud to have been a part of. Finally, I said at the beginning, but I think it's important to end with the fact that this is personal. I knew that early childhood education was important, but it was when Caleb and Cora were born, who are now 8 and 6, that it really became so clear to me how important those early years are. To see my son and daughter's growth in those early few years just was the most convincing piece of data I ever could have needed to know that this is the right space to be fighting for in the years ahead. And so I want to thank you. Thank you for being a part of this coalition. Thank you for the work that we're going to do together. The Building Better Beginnings Coalition is sorely needed. You are in the right space. Let's do some amazing work in the years ahead.